Let's discuss primers. Primers are the first stage of ignition for any cartridge to go off. The firing pin of your firearm strikes the primer located in the case head of the cartridge. You can see right here we have a 357 Magnum, and this uses a small Magnum pistol primer. This is something you're going to be reading about in a reloading manual, and let me briefly explain the differences. There are two sizes of primer for all intents and purposes. There is large and there is small. Within that, there are two designations, rifle and pistol. So you have small pistol, small rifle, large rifle. For each of those four branches, there's a Magnum version. Small Magnum pistol, large Magnum rifle, small Magnum rifle. The Magnum designation refers to a hotter spark. And depending on the case and the volume of powder charge, you may need several different types of primers. As an example, the 45 ACP uses a relatively standard load. It uses a standard large pistol primer to fuel it, whereas the 357 Magnum uses a small size primer, but in the Magnum variety, so it gives a hotter spark to ignite the larger powder charge. If you were loading for the 223556, that requires a small rifle primer, which I do not have here. We have two designations of large rifle primers. For the 3006, we're going to use a standard large rifle CCI number 200. Only requires a standard size primer, or excuse me, a standard heat primer. You'll get away perfectly with all of those loads. For the 458 Winchester Magnum, where the powder charges increase considerably, we want to use a large rifle Magnum primer. Your reloading manual will tell you what it was tested with. The same powder, such as, for example, IMR 4895, were we to use it in the 3006, it would require a large rifle primer, standard issue. We are going to use it in the 458, so you'll need the large Magnum rifle. And the same thing could be said for the slight difference between a 3006 and a 300 Winchester. Sometimes you need to substitute primers. You don't really want to ignite a large powder charge in, say, a Magnum case with a standard primer. It's usually, and I'm going to use that very loosely because you need to back it down and retest it, it's okay to use a Magnum rifle primer in a standard rifle cartridge, although it will change the pressure curve. So for all intents and purposes, now that components as well as ammunition is a little bit more readily available, let's use the exact primer called for in the reloading manual. They're relatively simple to explain their use. It's a volatile compound sitting within this little tiny metal anvil. Inside that little cup is a striking anvil, and what happens is at the rear of the case, the firing pin puts a dimple into it, crushing that volatile compound against the anvil, sending a shower of sparks into here. That is the primer's only function. They're not reusable. Our resizing die, which we're about to show you, is going to take out that old primer and reseat the new one in. One little word of note: when you seat primers, and this is for any gun, but it especially comes into play with a striker-fired pistol or your AR-15, AR-10 platform, you do not want to leave the new primer any higher than flush with the case, okay? So when you feel that case head and you run your fingernail over it, you want that primer seated to either perfectly flush or slightly recessed, usually 3 to 4 thousandths.